Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, and today I have with me Lauren Fonneville, and she is an Integrative Energy Practitioner specializing in EFT tapping for stress, anxiety, and trauma. She guides her clients on a journey of self-healing to break through obstacles, physical, mental, or emotional, that are keeping them stuck and holding them back in life or business. She believes we all have the answers within us, and sometimes we just need a little help accessing them. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, you are the first EFT practitioner I've had on the show. So I'm excited to talk about this. I've been aware of EFT for probably about 10 years now, I guess. I don't practice it very often, to be quite honest, but I know it can be powerful. So let's start with just introducing our audience to what EFT or tapping is.
Yeah, so EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it is a process of gently tapping on certain points of the body. And then at the same time, you are verbally acknowledging the emotions that you're feeling. So when I'm describing it to people who are not familiar with it, I often compare it to acupuncture, simply because people are more familiar with acupuncture. So when you go to an acupuncturist, they take those tiny little needles and they put them in at certain points. With tapping, we're applying acupressure to some of those same points. And the idea behind it, or some of the science behind it, is that it helps to reduce the amount of cortisol that's pumping through the body, which is the stress hormone, and then you can feel calmer, and when you feel calmer, you make better decisions.
Okay, cool. That all makes logical sense. And so when I imagine, like, obviously people come to see you for a session, you take them through this, but are there other ways that people can implement tapping once they've been doing it with a practitioner for a little while? Like, can you implement it like in the moment of your stress or trigger to help dissolve even the trigger?
Yes. So the beautiful thing about tapping is that it can be used proactively on a day-to-day basis as part of your self-care. And then it can also be used reactively in those moments that you were talking about, where you're feeling really stressed or feeling overwhelmed. And it can help you in the moment. I've found it particularly helpful if you are in the doctor's office and maybe you're feeling really stressed about having the conversation with the doctor, or maybe they're telling you something that you weren't expecting and you're having a hard time processing it. I, not too long ago, had to take my daughter to the doctor. They sent us to the emergency, to the hospital, and she ended up being admitted. And my anxiety was at an all-time high. And so I was just like pressing on some of the hand points and taking some deep breaths. And I really do think that that helped me a lot in being able to understand what the doctor was telling me, make the best decisions in the moment, and there's lots of situations in life where we can get overwhelmed, and having this tool in your back pocket or at your fingertips could be really helpful.
Yeah, because it's, again, like you explained it, it's a multiple pronged approach. So you're using points on the body that actually do have connection with relieving stress. And, so there are those acupressure points. And then it's that, I feel like it's that process of taking yourself through that dialogue.
Mhm.
And there's so much to be said for allowing yourself to feel the feeling. So this isn't another, way to just escape and avoid what you're feeling. This is actually a way to process.
Yes, that's exactly it. So it is a tool to really hold space for how you're feeling, because that's often not something that we do simply because it's uncomfortable, right? When
Yeah.
we're talking about emotions like anger, sadness, frustration, those are things we don't like feeling. And so we stuff it down, and then we distract ourselves with something else so we don't have to feel those feelings. And while that approach can work for the short term, I think we've all probably experienced that in the long term, all of those things that we've been avoiding and shoving down, they're going to just continue to grow and get to a point where they're going to make themselves known, whether that is physically. I think when we are under a lot of stress, people will have an automatic response when I ask the question, where do you carry that stress in your body? Most people
Hmm.
know, like, oh, I feel it in my neck and in my shoulders. But it's not just with stress that we hold things physically, it's with any emotion that we haven't allowed ourselves the time and space to feel. So this is a really healthy way of allowing you to feel those feelings.
Yes. And then my next question for you is, do you incorporate other energy healing modalities with the EFT in your sessions? And if so, how do you put those or put those together?
Yeah, so I am also a trauma-informed yoga instructor. I do sound healing. I teach meditation. So, and I'm also a Reiki practitioner. So yes, I do like to incorporate other healing modalities when I work with my clients, and that's really based on their comfort level, what they're interested in trying. A lot of
Hmm.
times I'll intuitively say, "Hey, I'm thinking we try this. How does that feel for you?" Of course, I want them to be comfortable with that, and most of the time, people are very open to trying these different modalities, and so I really just use my intuition as to when to bring those different aspects in.
Awesome. And I normally ask people their story at the very beginning, but we didn't really. So can you tell us just how you evolved into this and what brought you to the specific modality?
Yeah, sure. So I have always dealt with anxiety and stress. I think I was an anxious kid, but it was always something I was able to keep the lid on and manage, so to speak. And things really kind of got to that place where I knew I needed to find some help when we got unexpected news that my husband was going to have to deploy again. And we'd done deployments multiple times before. However, this was the first one since having kids, and my anxiety level just went through the roof, because it was unexpected. It was all the other ones I knew about months in advance. I could prepare myself, and this one was, we just got a call, and there it's happening. So I found myself having panic attacks and feeling really overwhelmed. I first went to the doctor, and she gave me some medication. I really didn't like the way that medication made me feel, and I decided that I was going to try some other holistic ways to manage my stress, and kind of made a deal with myself that if I wasn't feeling any sort of progress, that I would go back to the doctor and try some other medication. So for me, it started with going to yoga. I had been practicing yoga probably for 15 years before that, on and off. And this particular day, we had just recently moved to a new city. I went to this new yoga studio. There was a poster about yoga teacher training, and something deep within me was just screaming, "This is what you need to do."
Hmm.
So I did. I signed up on the spot, which is very unlike me. I usually like to, weigh out the pros and cons, make the lists, all the things. But I was just like, nope, I'm doing it. And so that was the first decision of many that kind of led me down this path. But then being at the yoga studio all the time, I was around people that were talking about energy and different types of energy healers that would, come to the studio. And so that's where I was introduced to Reiki, and ended up going and getting certified in Reiki. And I joined a coaching program of self-development. And it was in that program that the coach had invited in an EFT practitioner. And And I was very skeptical at the idea of tapping to reduce my stress or feel better, but I felt like I didn't have anything to lose, and I gave it a try and was pleasantly surprised with how good it made me feel. And then because of that, I went on and had some one-on-one sessions, continued tapping on my own, and then decided that I really wanted to share it with other people because of how it was had such a profound impact on my life and my well-being.
Right. Yeah. I remember when I first learned about tapping, it just seemed so almost too simple. Like, how could this actually, work? You're tapping on these points, you're saying these words, and you do actually feel better. So, with that being said, like, how long do the results last? Like, we've sort of kind of established that you can have pretty quick and immediate results. But do you find that in order for things to be sort of, for the most part, like permanently resolved, that you need to keep doing it, or does it just depend on the issue and how embedded the emotion is?
Yeah, it really depends on the person. It depends on the issue. It depends on how long you've been dealing with this particular issue. One of my mentors describes it as a table, right? So if you think of a table, at the tabletop is the presenting issue. And then you have the legs of the table that are holding that tabletop up. And so if we think of tapping on all of the different events that are on one of the table legs, if you tap on enough of them, you don't have to tap on every single issue that's attached to that leg, but if you tap on enough of them, that leg will fall. And then if you move on to the next leg and you tap on enough of them there, that leg will fall, and eventually that tabletop is going to fall. And so you absolutely can get to a point where the issue is no longer, and you don't have to tap on every single thing that's ever happened in your life that has contributed to that. But if you tap on enough of the big ones, you're going to find that relief. Now, that's not to say, I mean, we're human, right? So we're going to be exposed to other things that are triggering. So that's not to say that maybe something might not be triggered in you later on, but now you have the tool and you can recognize what's going on, have the awareness that you can tap, and it's not going to impact you in that same way.
Okay. And so in terms of like time dedication, it seems like it's pretty quick process. But should you like spend all, like your analogy of the table, should you spend like a whole bunch of time doing all of that at once, or should you break it up? Like, and allow yourself to sort of like come to a new level of a new normal, without the one leg before you move on to the next, so to speak.
Yeah, so it's really important to stay with one aspect of whatever your issue is at a time until you can tap that down to a level that really is more manageable for you before and something else is likely going to come up that's going to feel stronger for you, and that's when you know it's time to move on to the next thing.
Okay.
When the intensity is down enough on that first aspect that you're working on. But as far as how much time to spend on it, right? Like, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people say to me, I don't have time. Where am I going to find the time to do one more thing, right? So even if it's just a couple minutes a day that you're doing this on a proactive level, of just acknowledging whatever's going on in your day that day, or whatever maybe happened the day before that irritated you, right? Just a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes a day is going to then make you more likely to utilize tapping in those situations where you are really feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and need to use it in a more reactive manner. So the more you practice, the easier it is for you to implement later. Now, if you knowingly have something that's bothering you, like for example, I had a woman come to me who had a fear of going on elevators, and she never really liked elevators, but she never had any sort of incident where she was trapped in an elevator or anything like that. But as she got older, the fear got worse and her reaction to it would get worse, and it was impacting her life. She wasn't able to go on trips to New York City because she wouldn't be able to get into an elevator, right? So if you have something that you know that you want to work on, I would definitely recommend working with a practitioner. And those sessions are going to be longer. Typically, when I work with clients, the sessions are an hour long, and then you can choose if you like to do a little homework and continue to tap when you notice things coming up along the way. So it depends on what your availability is. It's never like a hard and fast answer with that.
Okay. So what else can we use? I mean, we've established that like anything that produces a feeling of anxiety, but are there other emotions that this can be applied to?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a tool that can help with limiting beliefs. So those thoughts that we have, I'm not good enough, who am I to be doing this work? Negative thoughts that perhaps and likely have come from experiences from our childhood that impact how we are showing up in our lives and in our businesses. That is something that tapping can help you get to the root of and release. It's also something that can help with physical pain. So even when there is a reason for you to be in pain, let's say you were in a car accident and maybe you've recovered from that, but now every time it rains, your shoulder gets all achy, right?
Mhm.
Um, there are emotional components to physical pain. So even when there is that reason for you, saying, "Oh, I was in this accident. I'm just going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life." A lot of the time, these emotional components can exacerbate the pain. So tapping can help you to create awareness around that, and also find physical relief in the body as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That has huge implications.
Mhm.
That's exciting. So, can you give us some more examples of like client success stories or like context?
Yeah, sure. So I have worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, so dealing with a lot of limiting beliefs around them being entrepreneurs. Sometimes there's fears around showing up on social media or doing presentations. I worked with a client. She was an accountant, and she was in a really toxic work environment, and she hated going to work every day. She really didn't feel comfortable saying what it was that she needed, speaking up for herself, setting boundaries. And so in our work together, our first 6 months, she really started to kind of peel back those layers as to why she was always so quiet. And a lot of it had to do with childhood and this need to be quiet and stay small to be safe. And in recognizing, that was then, and that was her survival mechanism, right? That was how she protected herself, but that's not how it has to be now. And
Mhm.
so in doing so, she was really able to then voice what it was that she needed, stood up for herself in a lot of ways. And ultimately she decided to leave that job. She then started a new career. She wrote a book. She really was able to tap into that empowerment that was always there, but had been covered up by all the fear and anxiety from things from her past.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I feel like it can be such a road of self-discovery,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which is can be both scary and exciting at the same time too.
Yeah. I mean, so like I've worked with a woman who was really suppressing a lot of sadness and a lot of grief. She had gone through a lot in her life. She had lost loved ones, and she had never really allowed herself to feel any of it. She was just pushing it down and powering through. And a lot of the time we do that because it's life. We have to go on, we have to show up, we have to go to work, we have to take care of the kids, all of these things.
Mhm.
And so there was a lot of fear that she had in allowing herself to feel the sadness, like that feeling that she wasn't going to be able to come back from it if she went there. But
Mhm.
the great thing about tapping is that it can be very gentle. You never have to dive into the deep end and feel all the feelings and relive the trauma or anything like that. You can do it in a very gentle way. And so we did, and in doing so, she really was able to find some freedom from those emotions, and other things in her life shifted because of that. So it was really a beautiful process to watch.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about that yet. So what could some of the negative side effects be, or are there any? Like you just mentioned, like you don't have to relive or rehash the trauma, or so have you ever had a situation where it can be almost like um more triggering, or is that sort of like limit that whole feedback process because of how it works?
Yeah, I mean, there are clients or situations that come to mind where people had a very strong reaction to something. And as a practitioner, it's my job to recognize that. And then when it's too much, and maybe somebody, then that could be indicated by somebody really crying a lot, not being able to catch their breath, or
Mhm.
it's like physical things that are going on, then it's time to back off. I would say, if you are someone who has knowingly experienced trauma, I would recommend working with a practitioner to really go through this in a safe and guided way. I mean, this is also a tool that you, of course, can use on your own. There's tons of videos that are out there that you can tap along with. And I think that they are wonderful. I make videos too, but the thing with the videos to know is that if what the practitioner is saying as you're tapping isn't resonating with how you're feeling, it's just not connecting with you, pause that video and really try to tune in and come up with your own words of how you're feeling, because that's where you're really going to make progress, is when you're acknowledging how you are feeling, and a video isn't always able to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the whole point of I feel like practicing this is to help process your personal emotions. So yeah, if you're just I mean, it's good maybe to practice and to get familiar, but yeah, like you said, like it's really important for it to resonate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all about that vibration. And I think also too, like teaching our brains that it's okay to feel the emotion, that it's not permanent, it's just passing, and that an emotion literally can't kill us or like actually hurt us at all, because it's everything is really a manifestation of what we're thinking in our heads. So I feel like, yes, it can be powerful, but at the same time, like when we disempower that piece, it empowers another piece.
I love that. And so the definition of emotion is energy in motion. So it's this idea that our emotions, they want to be felt, they want to be acknowledged. They don't want to be stuffed down and ignored where they can like fester and grow. They want to be felt so that, you don't expend all of this energy trying to run away from them and not feel them, but you allow yourself to feel them so that you can move through them and feel more empowered when you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, tell us, is there anything like specifically about the research that stands out to you that you feel like would be powerful for people to know and understand?
Yeah. Dr. Peta Stapleton is one of the biggest researchers when it comes to the emotional freedom technique. She's based over in Australia. And one of her studies showed that tapping reduces the amount of cortisol in the body by up to 43%, which is a really, really big number. And
Mm-hmm.
so being able to calm yourself in that way and know that there are changes that are happening in your body, in your brain, is really, really very powerful. Another study that was done was focused on veterans who had been diagnosed with PTSD, and they did one-on-one tapping with each of these veterans in this group for 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, 90% of the veterans in that group had a reduction in their PTSD symptoms. And then that was that stayed when they checked in with them 3 months later, and again 6 months later. And so, I mean, and that in itself, the tapping has been approved by the VA to be used with veterans in the United States. I mean, I think that in itself is something really powerful, just knowing how long it takes the government to
Mm-hmm.
approve anything. And
So
and
true.
that it's really a gentle way of helping people that can have a lasting impact.
Yes, I think it can't be stressed enough how gentle the process is.
Mhm.
And so this isn't anything crazy. It's not like a ayahuasca retreat, which I'm sure is super powerful, but not gentle at all from what I've heard. I
Right.
haven't experienced it myself yet, but that's one of the things that sort of steers me away from that, is the
Yeah.
jarring physical experience that comes with it from what I've researched. So,
Agree. I mean, I literally was just talking to a friend who had this experience where she did ayahuasca, and she was like on the floor crying for hours. I'm like, that sounds awful and like nothing I would want to try,
Right. Not
Yeah.
to mention the physical purge.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like you said, that's something to really, to be said for this whole process is like the federal government has acknowledged its usefulness and utility in helping our veterans who, you know, are so selfless in the work that they do and suffer such extreme life altering side effects from directly from that work. So I think that's really powerful to know and to realize about tapping. So what else do we need to talk about or have we not talked about yet that you want to bring forward? I feel like we've covered a lot of bases here.
Yeah, I think we have covered a lot. I mean, if people are interested in learning more and like more about the science, I do have a free masterclass on my website that is open to anyone who's interested. And you can access that by visiting mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass. And I think the best way, if you're intrigued by this, if you've never tried this and you're intrigued by this, give yourself the gift of giving it a try. And whether that's just watching a video and tapping along with it and seeing what you think, or attending a class. I also offer a free monthly tap along group that is typically the first Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern. And that's really focused on entrepreneurs and any stress or anxiety you're dealing with in your business, or how you're holding yourself back. And then we tap as a group, and there's a lot of power in tapping as a group. We call it borrowing benefits. So we use the words of one volunteer, but everybody else is tuning into whatever their own issue is. And then afterwards we share what we have felt in regards to our own issue. And there's always a lot of synchronicities in that space and growth that happens, and a lot of awareness. So I always invite people to come give it a try, see if it works for you.
Okay. All right, cool. Would you be open to maybe taking us through a small demonstration right now?
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, cool. What should we tap on?
I don't know. What would you like to tap on?
I'm trying to think maybe like what is maybe like really front of mind right now. How about like inflation?
Inflation. Okay.
So like when I think of that, it brings up like financial limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about inflation, what we would do is think on a scale of 1 to 10, like how much does that, bother you on a scale of 1 to 10, or how overwhelming is that for you to think about, right? And so we give ourselves that gauge of 1 to 10, 10 being, the most intense, to then be able to check as we move through the process to see if that number has shifted, and be able to just note where we are throughout the process.
Okay. So for me, I feel like I'm at a 6 right now with that.
Okay. So what would you say is one of the main thoughts that you have when you think about inflation? You said it brings up financial worries.
Yeah, like the whole concept of things are getting more expensive, but how much money I'm bringing home is staying the same. So
Yeah.
that whole ratio of,
Yeah.
of you know,
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll start on the pinky side of the hand. So I'm tapping with my fingers on my right hand on the pinky side of my left hand. Now you can always switch back and forth if you like. Some people say that they feel uneven if they don't do both. I typically only do the one side, but okay. So now I'm going to say a sentence, and then I invite you to repeat that sentence. So even though prices are going up,
even though prices are going up
and my income is staying the same,
and my income is staying the same,
and that makes me feel what?
and that makes me feel worried.
Right here, right now, I'm acknowledging this worry.
Right here, right now, I'm acknowledging this worry.
Even though I have these worries about inflation,
even though I have these worries about inflation
and how it's going to impact my family,
and how it's going to impact my family,
right here, right now, I'm acknowledging this worry.
Right here, right now, I'm acknowledging this worry.
Even though I have these worries about inflation
Even though I have these worries about inflation
and the rising prices of everything,
and the rising prices of everything,
it's okay and I'm okay.
it's okay and I'm okay.
And we're going to come to the crown of the head. These worries about inflation.
These worries about inflation.
Coming to the start of the eyebrows on both sides. The prices are going up and I'm worried.
The prices are going up and I'm worried.
Side of the eyes. My income is staying the same.
My income is staying the same.
And I'm worried about it.
And I'm worried about it.
Under the eyes. I'm worried about inflation.
I'm worried about inflation.
And how this is going to impact me.
And how this is going to impact me.
And we're going to come under the nose. I have all of these worries about inflation.
I have all these worries about inflation.
Onto the chin crease. I'm worried about these rising costs.
I'm worried about these rising costs.
And then we're going to come to the collarbone. So it's really just underneath the collarbone on the fleshy part on both sides. I have all these worries about inflation.
I have all these worries about inflation.
Is there a main worry that comes to mind for you? More specific?
I guess that like eventually, I don't know why this is. I think this is important too to bring up is that like sometimes our worries, like when we voice them out loud, they sound a little irrational, but they're real for us.
Yes, yes. No, I'm so glad that you said that. Something that we think over and over repeatedly, it can feel really true. But then when we take the time to say it out loud, it's like, oh, that is actually pretty silly, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like my worry is that like it will spiral out of control to where like it literally like won't, add up. Like everything will be so expensive that it doesn't matter how much money I make, I won't be able to like keep my head above water.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll come underneath the arm. Everything's going to be so expensive.
Everything's going to be so expensive.
I won't be able to keep my head above water.
I won't be able to keep my head above water.
And then we're coming to the back of the hand between the pinky and the ring finger. I'm worried everything's going to get so expensive.
I'm worried everything's going to get so expensive.
Not going to keep my head above water.
I'm not going to be able to keep my head above water.
So then we pause right there and take a nice deep breath in. And so that was one round of tapping. And so you can see we really were sticking with the worry about the inflation. And, and worry about inflation is kind of a broad topic, right? And so as we continue to tap, the idea is to try to get more and more specific with what the worry is, maybe where you're feeling that, if you're feeling that physically in your body, and then, exploring from there. So the process is really... I like to say it's like a connecting of the dots, and you never really know where the next dot is going to go. But when you allow yourself to sit with that same emotion for a while, kind of like you did, like when you said, oh yeah, like my worry is that it's, going to be so bad. And then you kind of laughed a little bit, right? Because it's like our mind starts to think about it a little bit differently. We get a little bit of a different perspective. And when we have that different perspective, we can think about things differently. When we think about things differently, we feel differently. When we feel differently, we take different action. And then, of course, we get a different result. So, I mean, that was only one round. Yeah. You want to do another round or are we good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's do one more round just so everyone gets it.
Okay, so you said you were at, I think, what'd you say, a 6 in the beginning?
I was at a 6, yeah.
Does it still feel like a 6, or do you notice anything different?
Well, I know that we got more specific with the thought, and so acknowledging that specific thought actually like sort of kept it where it is. Okay. But I feel like that's still progress.
Yeah, okay. All right. So when you think about this worry about inflation, do you feel it at all in your body? Do you feel anything?
Yeah, it's like, that like nervousness, like like in your heart space is where I feel it.
Okay. So even though I feel this nervousness in my heart space,
even though I feel this nervousness in my heart space,
and I still have these worries about inflation,
and I still have these worries about inflation,
right here, right now, I'm honoring how I feel.
right here, right now, I'm honoring how I feel.
And what does it feel like in your heart space? Just like tightness or?
Tightness, yeah, and a fluttery.
Okay. Even though I have this tight, fluttery feeling in my heart space,
Even though I have this tight, fluttery feeling in my heart space,
and I think it's related to my worries about inflation,
and I think it's related to my worries about inflation,
I'm choosing to love myself through this.
I'm choosing to love myself through this.
Even though I feel this tension in my heart space,
Even though I feel this tension in my heart space,
and I still have these worries about inflation,
and I still have these worries about inflation,
I'm choosing to love myself through this.
I'm choosing to love myself through this.
Coming to the top of the head. I still have these worries about inflation.
I still have these worries about inflation.
Coming to the eyebrows. These worries that prices are going to be so high,
These worries that prices are going to be so high,
and I won't be able to keep my head above water.
and I won't be able to keep my head above water.
Onto the side of the eyes. I feel this tension in my heart space.
I feel this tension in my heart space.
I feel this fluttery feeling in my heart space.
I feel this fluttery feeling in my heart space.
Under the eyes. All these worries about inflation.
All these worries about inflation.
These worries about prices going up.
These worries about prices going up.
I'm worried I won't be able to keep my head above water.
I'm worried I won't be able to keep my head above water.
And then onto the chin crease. And I feel this tension in my heart space.
And I feel this tension in my heart space.
Does it feel possible to let go of any of the worry?
I would love to let go of this worry.
Does it feel like the worry is serving you in any way?
No, if anything, I feel like it's holding me back and like pushing me toward just to inaction, like almost to like paralysis.
Yeah. Okay. Coming to the collarbone. This worry is keeping me paralyzed.
This worry is keeping me paralyzed.
I know this worry isn't serving me.
I know this worry isn't serving me.
And I'd really like to be able to let it go.
And I really like to be able to let it go.
Coming under the arm. If I could let this worry go, then I'd feel what?
If I could let this worry go, then I would feel relief.
Relief. And then the back of the hand. I deserve to feel this relief.
I deserve to feel this relief.
We'll do one more round.
Okay.
Come to the top of the head. I've been carrying these worries.
I've been carrying these worries.
Is this a worry you've been carrying for a while? How long have you been dealing with it?
This is the first time I've acknowledgement, but it must have been hanging out with me for a while, I think.
Going to the eyebrows. This worry has been hanging around for a while.
This worry has been hanging around for a while.
And I know it's not serving me.
And I know it's not serving me.
Coming to the side of the eyes. I'd like to be able to let it go.
I'd like to be able to let it go.
But I'm not sure how to do that.
But I'm not sure how to do that.
Under the eyes. I'm open to the possibility of letting it go.
I am open to the possibility of letting it go.
Does that feel true? That you're open to the possibility of it?
Yes.
Okay. Under the nose. I want to feel relief.
I want to feel relief.
I deserve to feel relief.
I deserve to feel relief.
Onto the chin crease. This worry is keeping me paralyzed.
This worry is keeping me paralyzed.
It's keeping me in inaction.
It's keeping me in inaction.
I deserve some relief from this.
I deserve some relief from this.
Under the arm. I'm ready for some relief from this.
I am ready for some relief from this.
Does it feel like you can let any of it go right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to the back of the hand. Right here, right now, I'm letting go of some of this worry.
Right here, right now, I'm letting go of some of this worry.
I deserve to let go of this worry.
I deserve to let go of this worry.
And I'm inviting in relief.
I'm inviting in relief.
And then pause there, take a nice deep breath in. And let it go. If you come back to the intensity, does it feel any different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm at a 3 now. So,
and how do you know that it's a 3?
Well, it's decreased. I'm a muscle tester,
Okay.
so that's my tool. But just in general, like I feel a lot better. You know, I can definitely feel like it's decreased in intensity. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a really great example of how we can start with something more broad. We can get it a little bit more specific, tuning into maybe how you're carrying this in your body, how you described it as the tension. Do you know, if you tune into that tension in your heart space, do you notice any shift there as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still there a little bit, but it's much less.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't even know how long we were tapping for, but not that long. And, so I think it's a good example for people to see. It doesn't take that long for you to then notice some shifts in your thinking and then also physically how you're feeling.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm so thank you for that. I'm very grateful and appreciative. And I think it again, like it illustrates that, you don't have to be at a 10 out of 10 with something to address it. And you also like don't have to get to a 0 out of 10 in order to have some sort of benefit, relief, progress.
Yes.
And like you said, if we had kept going, I'm sure we would have uncovered like more little, like you described it, like legs of that table.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. And I think what you said about like you don't have to let it get to a 10 before you address something is really a really important thing. And I just want to say I agree 100% with that. And I think a lot of the time when we are waiting or holding off on addressing something, it does start to manifest itself physically. And when we ignore those physical things, whether it's just like aches or pains or whatever the case may be, they will get to a point where then you can't ignore them. So I always say we need to listen to our body when she whispers so that we don't have to hear her scream. So give yourself that gift of listening to your body and listening to your mind. If your mind is like racing all the time, like that's a sign too. And don't wait till it's really bad to address it. And unfortunately, that's a lot of time when people come to me. It's like, it's like really bad. I've tried to do things, nothing's working. I'm ready to try this weird tapping thing.
Yeah, we are all so used to just existing at this level of not great but not awful that that's our normal. And so we really only think that we need to address something when it gets to quote the awful place, whatever number that is for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the amount of people that are living with chronic stress and chronic tension is they don't even realize it. There's so many people, like you just said, it's normal. This has become the normal. And so what's happening is that in the brain, the amygdala is like firing off, sending all this cortisol constantly in the body, which, is really only supposed to be there when you're in those life or death, fight or flight situations. But instead, our bodies are constantly in fight or flight. And that is not healthy. And so this is a beautiful tool that can help you, as I like to say, come home to yourself and find that inner peace. And we deserve that. We all deserve to feel good physically, mentally, emotionally. So do what you need to do to get there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Give yourself that is an act of self-love. I mean, the word self-love and the phrase, I should say, is self-care is thrown around so much these days, but it really is like these are great examples of true self-care, true self-love is to give yourself that time and attention and the space to process so that you don't have to live in fight or flight or in a state that's so chronically inflamed and stressed out that you don't even realize that you're living in fight or flight. And I see this every day in my functional medicine practice. People come to me with a myriad of symptoms that are manifesting as autoimmune or insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes or heart disease, high cholesterol, any of these things. But it all comes back to inflammation and stress, which is driven by our cortisol cycles.
Yeah.
So people, listen, this is for real, has health implications.
No, it's so true. I'm currently reading Mind Over what is it? Mind Over now I'm gonna forget. Mind Over Body or Mind Over by Lisa Rankin. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's like it's so good. It's all about the it's all about how our mind can really, if we allow ourselves to process and feel our feelings, and we can think our way healthy too, right? Like
Yeah.
our thoughts really impact our bodies. And so just,
Yeah.
and a big part of that is allowing yourself to feel the feelings,
Yeah.
even when they're uncomfortable. It's really going to mind over medicine. That's the name
I
of
know
it.
her medicine. Yes.
Yeah,
Dr.
it's
Lisa Rankin. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, we get to this place by really what I feel like is being unconscious about what's running around amok in our heads. What are those thoughts that you said so eloquently earlier drive our reactions and our results? But when we get intentional and uncovering those, that's where the power is. And we realize, oh my gosh, I've been living so many years on autopilot. I had no idea that this is the reality I was creating for myself emotionally and physically, but I have the power to change it. And so this is such a powerful tool to help open that door and for you to like really become aware of what are you thinking, what are you feeling, giving yourself the time and the space to feel, process, move through, but then also like choose thoughts and feelings that you want to feel. I
Yes.
feel like so many of us don't even realize that we can choose. That
Mm,
sort of like we're just that it's almost like it's a result, like the feelings are a result. Well, no, you get to choose the feeling.
right. And I love what you said about like, it really is. It's about cultivating that connection between the mind and the body, and how you were saying, like, what am I thinking about and how am I feeling? And sometimes I'll have my clients set an alarm on their phone for like different times throughout the day. How am I feeling? Okay, if the answer to that question is like, I'm feeling good. Okay, great. What am I thinking about? Beginning to make that connection. And if the answer is like, oh, I feel like crap. Okay, what are you thinking about? You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
so that awareness can really be mind blowing for people because it's not something that we typically do. Again, it's like that society telling us to power through, keep going, push on, right? And so when we take that time to really connect in that way, beautiful things can happen.
Yes. Yes, yes. So good. So good. Well, thank you, Lauren. Again, tell everyone where you want to send them for your masterclass.
Yeah, so the masterclass is at mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass. And then you can find out all about my events just on my website too, mindshiftwithlauren.com. And if you look on Instagram, if you search for Mindshift with Lauren, I'll come up. My handle is Lauren Nicole, but if you search for
Okay.
Mindshift with Lauren, I'll be there. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for all your wisdom, all your work, and for that demonstration. I think it was really helpful. And I don't normally post videos for these episodes, but because of what you just took us through, I'm going to post this one
Okay.
on YouTube's, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. So everyone, thank you for joining us today. Definitely check out mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass. And if for some reason you're driving and you didn't catch that, you can always go to drlaramay.com/podcasts. And that's where all the show notes to all the shows live. And this link will live there too. So it will take you directly to her if that's yet another way to find her and learn about her work. So thank you, everyone. I encourage you to give yourself the time, give yourself the space, give yourself the love to just have just that little bit of 6 down to 3. But because that can be, the opening of something really great and really powerful and healing for yourself. So
Thank you so
All
much
right.
for having me. I really love this conversation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. We'll catch you in the next episode.